Remember, this entire manga and every manga on this channel is hand-drawn by myself, and now you too can learn exactly how to make your own viral Dragon Ball mangas at www.makemanga.com, where you can learn directly from me. My mangas have got me on TV, on newspapers, and even earned me over $60,000 a month on Patreon alone. And now, you can click the link in the description and pinned comment of this video and do it yourself. You only need to see the website to see just how many thousands of you are taking this opportunity right now. And don't forget also, the next video to this Ultra Vegito series has already been made and is live now on my Patreon right now for over 4,500 of you incredible fans to watch after this. Again, links are in the pinned comment and description. Enjoy.
What is going on here? You can't be me! How? Well, who else would I be, brother? You may have changed in form, but don't tell me you forgot what you used to look like.
So our story continues with a shell-shocked Vegito in a shock reveal. A smirking second Vegito now revealed to be Gaiba all along. And not just any variant of the God Killer, but the true demon version last seen in the very final battle of Season 1. His appearance coming completely unexpectedly for our hero, as Gaiba would stand with a whole lot to explain.
No! You're not real! None of this is... How could this be possible?
But Vegito, struggling to even take in what was in front of him, would involuntarily just begin stumbling backwards, like a ghost from the past was now in front of him. This, along with the reveal of Whis' betrayal, leaving his mind utterly shattered.
You seem unlike yourself. Are you sure you're really me, God Killer?
But with his arms folded, true demon Vegito, aka Gaiba, would reply with a grin.
I have no idea why you're so shocked. Did you really expect anything less to be at the top of the totem pole than you yourself, friend? Who more evil than to be destined to be the devil himself than you, dear Vegito? What are you talking about?
But this insinuation of the God Killer's character would be aggravating from the very start for the God Killer, as with his teeth now gritted, he would grumble,
I am not the evil one here. I am the savior of the entire multiverse. I am not the one who treated mortals as lesser beings, as specks of dust to destroy at some god's beck and call. I am the Liberator! Liberator? I don't ever remember calling myself that.
As the true demon Vegito would then just elaborate.
You say you aren't the one to treat others as lesser beings, treating their lives as meaningless. But was it not you who so callously destroyed all those poor cheerleaders and that host without a care in the world? The aim was Kazuya. What did they have to do with anything, Vegito?
Before the grin would widen and he would add,
Or what about that time you killed Helise's poor children just for being born into godhood? And talking of half-gods, what about when you killed your own son, Zycor. Erased him, in fact. Does that sound like the good guy, Mr. Godkiller? What? My son? What are you even talking about?
But stunning Vegito more, the Godkiller would be wide-mouthed, not even able to remember what happened in that moment, that he did, in fact, erase Zycor. His brain hurting as if a core memory was being brought out by force, as he would nonetheless continue.
What I did, whatever I did, it was justified. They all deserve to die. I did that for the good of everyone, half-gods or not. One day, they would have grown to become the same threat to mortal kind. Gods, demons, they are all a threat to my family. Oh, threats were they? Let's see about that.
As the second Vegito would then suddenly begin walking forward, clearly humoured by the Godkiller's responses, as he would continue.
Yes, I'm sure you were simply quivering in your boots at that one little daughter of Heli's with a power level of 400. I'm sure that was a drastic threat to your Super Saiyan-filled family, Vegito. Do you have any idea how old she was? You murdered a teenager!
And with that bombshell, for a moment, both Vegitos would remain in silence, not a word from the Godkiller in response. But soon, some movement would occur, as true Demon Vegito would walk forward, and now be face to face with the Godkiller saying,
But while you ponder that, to your other question of how I could even be here, well, that's just all down to remembering the past. Specifically, to one of the first times you ever got to see the Seraphim eyes. Seraphim?
This response immediately triggering a reaction from Vegito, as he would struggle to piece together what the demon could possibly mean. But soon walking past the Godkiller, true Demon Vegito would look back with a cocky smirk, almost reminiscing with his hands on his hips, letting out,
When do you remember seeing those eyes first, Vegito? Think hard!
As Vegito looking back would just mutter,
The first time? Wasn't that against Z?
And it would be at this moment that true Demon Vegito in an eccentric pose, with his hand on his chin would reveal,
Yes, I guess you're finally starting to remember. It was Z, the first of Zeno's twin gods. And in that battle, this used to be your go-to form. Your true demon form. Speed, power, and Lucif's influence all rolled into one. Our strongest yet. But in the end, even this wasn't enough to defeat the Seraphim user. Your first defeat, in fact, since your Moshi. But that's exactly what led you to be desperate, to do the unthinkable, and in the process let loose me. You remember that too, right, Vegito? The moment you used the time rings to create over 1,000 time clones. Clones you knew were no ordinary ones, but real-life versions of us, just from slightly different timelines. Each one more or less equal in power, and each one smited just as easily by that damn Z. You took it lightly. I'm not even sure how you survived. But what exactly did you think happened to all those timelines with their Vegito gone? They're all ruined, destroyed. And all this because you learned this from Black, the original ruiner of timelines. I guess not everybody is worth absorbing. Can you be useful for anything?
As in a strange scene within our Vegito's mind, we'd immediately see a comedically angry Yamoshi and Broly, grimacing to no end at the closed-eyed, smug Black, who would just whisper, "Oops," like that devil said. Maybe you should think twice next time before you absorb anything in sight. I'm happy to leave at any time, by the way. But back with true Demon Vegito, his story would now finally get told, as he would begin.
And as all of us were smited, just as when one is killed by a demon, all of us were sent at the same time down to the demon realm, overflowing its bottom Sector 10 grounds without a clue in hell at what had just happened to us.
And with that, a flashback to those untold events would occur, with one of the confused true Demon Vegitos looking around frantically among the babble, yelling,
What the hell happened? That damn god! Is this some kind of illusion? Now, what do we have here? New victims for the Emperor?
But breaking their time to even think and recollect themselves, a one-horned mysterious veteran of the demon realm would soon approach from behind with a gnarly voice.
Are these just like the Namekians or something? These creatures all look the damn same.
As soon revealed would be what looks like a high-level demon king or former emperor, armored to the throat in battle-damaged garbs, as behind him he would come prepared, and not alone either. Leaving the Vegitos to question in tandem.
Who the hell is that? That doesn't look like a god nor angel. No, we're not. But we'll happily send you to meet your maker.
As without much words more, almost immediately, the bloodthirsty demons would rush in straight for their prey.
What? Out of the frying pan and straight into the fire, huh?
Taking the past god killers by surprise, as with a look of fear even they would know, the power levels down here would be on a whole new level to where they were at this point in time.
What? The speed! What are these things?
And just like that, it would become crystal clear when these undercooked Vegitos would then be slaughtered one by one, and in record time. Their bodies, of course, not dying due to their boo regeneration, but defenseless nonetheless against their demonic opponent's power. But as all of these other Vegitos would be getting their asses handed to them, one would remain on the edge watching, and he would not be happy.
This is nonsense! How am I being annihilated like this? I've killed gods, angels! How could whatever these things be surpass even that? I won't stand for it! I won't! as in typical Vegito fashion, in a rage of his pride being tested, the God Killer would just not stand around and allow this to happen anymore, ascending in power as much as he could with pure brute force alone. What's he doing? This power getting all of the clones' attentions, as they would all turn around simultaneously. That's one of our powers! All reeling in shock, as before them would be a violently growing in size aura, covered in layers of black lightning, its mass fast approaching towards them until... the Vegito inside would let out one final scream, being lost in the light as if he was destroying himself with his own out-of-control power. What? And in the very next panel, it would seem that just that would be happening, as from within the aura, the true demon Vegito would simply explode into a mess of pink gunk. And with that, thousands of mini pieces of broken apart Vegito would slam all over the place, and notably onto the bodies of all of the remaining thousands of Vegitos, shocking them each with the unsuspected moment. Traitor! And within seconds, the unthinkable would be happening, as each of the Vegitos would now be surrounded in the pink boo goo, powered up to untold levels by the certain God Killer, suffocating and crushing their bodies as their muffled screams would let out. What the hell just happened to them? Confusing even the demons, as each of their opponents would become nothing more than small balls on the ground, no bigger than a baseball. And as fast as they would form, just as fast they would be seen shooting away, but mysteriously, all in the same direction. Ultimately back onto a single reformed true demon Vegito, the one that exploded now back and...
Oh wow! If only Z could see me now!
As with smoke leaving his freshly formed innards, a teeth-bared Vegito would be whispering until... With a monstrous groan, one more extreme power-up would be unleashed for all the demons left on the battlefield to see and bear witness to. The ultimate reaction being a giant expanse of pure energy ripping through the sector in violent and spectacular fashion. And of course, the nearby victims being the demons of the land that so naively approached the God Killers, thinking them of meals, each and every one instantly erased from Vegito's sheer energy alone. In the end, as we would look to the source of the now finished light show, only black smoke would be left. But through it all, of course, one spiky-haired silhouette would be recognized a mile off, and a face would then emerge, with a large blackened scar, witnessed with its eyes closed in peaceful meditation until... Now this is more like it. I told you, I wouldn't stand for this. As finally opening his eyes for the first time, Vegito would, even before our Vegito, unlock the green seraphim eyes. Now, to get out of here. as shockingly, after fusing with all those Vegitos who each had time rings, true Demon Vegito would reveal 5 time rings in his possession. Take me home! And with these legendary long-lost rings in his possession, the final remaining Vegito would open in front of him in nostalgic style, a time portal, or at least what he thought would be. As on making steps forward, as he would peer through, what he would see within the portal would be nothing like the battlefield he was on just as he was fighting Z. And as he would look around, more confusion would come over him as he would recognize the surroundings, letting out, "What is this place? It's like Earth, but it couldn't be! How far into the past did these things take me?" But trying to find more answers, the God Killer would be quick to fly off, soaring through the skies wondering, "There's something about this place. The air, the gravity. It's just like where I was. What has Z done to me?" And like this, many years would pass in the demon realm where time would move differently. Vegito would use the time rings often, but it would always just take him to new sectors within the demon realm rather than a new timeline. But one day, during his flight in his search for answers, Vegito would eventually come to notice a strange structure on the ground. What is that? A chair? Before eventually, his intrigue would get the better of him and the God Killer would descend, landing in front of the inanimate object, as almost immediately, Vegito would realize, "This thing, it's familiar to me. It's familiar to Lucifer. A throne, but it's empty. That could only mean..." Before almost, in second nature, like a certain being within him was controlling him rather than himself, Vegito would begin taking his seat, dangling his legs. I understand it now. Before finally sitting on the throne, totally comfortably, with a smirk, as true Demon Vegito would let out, "I see everything clearly. I am not Vegito anymore. 1,000 Vegitos fused is simply 1,000 pieces of Lucifer too. This was always my throne, and I was always him.
I am Lucifer. Now, let's see how long before it's my turn to return to slaughter all those gods."
Before after this bombshell back in the present timeline, Vegito would be looked back at by Gaiba, or should we say Lucifer, who would look and say, "Do you understand now, Vegito? I am you, but the you that fully accepted who you were meant to be. Lucifer's vessel and nothing more. That fusion gave me so much of Lucifer's essence that I am him now. And if the current Lucifer fails in his plan for any reason, he will live on through me to repeat the cycle. Why do you think you were sent here in the first place. You were sent down here by him personally to do exactly the same. But little did he know, I was already here. Before then continuing with a grin, the newly named Lucif would continue. And unfortunately, 2 backups aren't needed. And I possess far more of him within me than you ever will. So do us both a favor and... But his goading would come to a stop when bolts of lightning to his right would catch his attention. You're telling me you're Lucif now? That I was sent here as part of yet another plan of his? As when we would see Vegito, his whole body would be trembling with anger, flashing back in his mind how he was a pawn in Season 1, and now seems to be a pawn even at the end of Season 2. As with a close-up of his face, he would let out, How many times does that Lucif think he can get away with controlling me? I won't allow it! As in a burst of movement, harking back to the call of the past Vegito, the God Killer would now move with killing intent. Yeah! The cycle breaks here! As with a ravenous roundhouse, Vegito would slam Lucif straight in the face, sending the new devil skyrocketing into the distance. And with his right arm snapping, he would grumble, And before you die, you're returning all that power that's mine, clown! Give it back! Immediately blasting out of his arm his cell tail, like a solid javelin extending from his body. Goo and Namekian blood splattering all over as he does so. As soon, it would reach right up into the sky, chasing after the careering back Lucif. Finally, now you want to fight for real, huh? But even as Lucif would fly back, with blood now trickling from his lip, producing energy in his right hand, he would be far from concerned, saying, But how dare you think abilities I know like the back of my hand would work at all? As with a swift and sharp slash with his Godslayer blade, for the first time, Vegito's cell tail would be severed in half instantly. Allow me to remind you just what you could have been embracing Lucif! As then digging his sword through the ground, Lucif Vegito would drag himself to a stop on the battlefield. I know that all too well, chump. And trust me, I don't need that weakling for anything anymore! While our Vegito defiantly would just retract his arm immediately. And for a moment, the two Vegitos from two different seasons, two different timelines, would stand at a precipice in silence, watching each other carefully, their breathing synchronized. Until eventually, as if one mind would connect them both, they would say, Enough! You become part of me now! Lucif! Vegito! And just like that, both would shoot off straight for each other, head on, each screaming at the top of their lungs in the same exact voice. And in a freeze frame, once they would reach each other, both would be ready with a different attack to assault each other with, inching closer and closer in slow-mo until just their collision alone would result in a seismic explosion of pure Saiyan and demonic energy. Exchanging blow for blow initially in the midst of the bright lights, both landing kicks. Until Vegito would find himself off guard, with Lucif appearing right behind with his arm raised above. But just as he would swipe with intensity to presumably behead Vegito, the God Killer would Matrix style lean back and dodge entirely. A giggle being heard from him as not only that, but in a counter, he would lean back and in his left palm, an energy ball would generate until... Idiot! Have you forgot your own abilities?
Until in a surprising turn of events, Lucif would reveal his long-not-seen android energy absorption bead, placing it right in the path of the oncoming attack.
Fool! Feed your energy this way then! It all counts the same! What? How?
As not even allowing the energy to expand, it would almost immediately be sucked in like a hoover, adding presumably to Lucif's already impressive power. But as we would see the hand take in the beam, for some reason it would begin to tremble, as the red bead in the middle would start glowing red hot and... in an unexpected turn for Lucif, instantly his entire arm would explode, leaving him with a puzzled look as to why.
I forgot!
But as he would angrily then stare at the pink gooey mess left behind, he would then remember.
I forgot! The energy's got way too strong for Dr. Giro's primitive tech a long time ago. Only an idiot would still think this is useful. What am I doing? Too much Lucif and not enough Vegito, eh? You don't even know how to use my body, clown!
Leaving Vegito, on the contrary, to chuckle ravenously as he would continue.
Amateur mistake. There's a reason we hadn't used that since the final destroyer was killed. Seems I may have just found your weakness. Must have got real rusty down here, I guess.
But as Vegito would goad, slowly but surely, the devil's missing arm would just reform and eventually return to perfect shape.
Maybe just a little, God Killer.
As no longer angry, he would concede.
You must understand, I've been waiting here a long time. None of those pathetic emperors below were even worth using a single one of my techniques. But you'll know all about my memory soon enough. Once you become Vegito 1001 to join me.
But with his hands on his hips, the God Killer would still be smiling, responding,
So you did meet those other demons? No wonder they kept saying they recognized me. But it says a lot that 1,000 Vegitos or more of you fused are needed to even equal me. Guess we know now which one of us is living in the true best timeline. Well, because of you, none of us even have timelines to return to. But this comment would just send Lucif Vegito back into a rage, as he would add on, and as for equal, I may have forgotten how this body works, but you've clearly forgotten just what Lucif's power did for you. As instantly out of nowhere, Lucif would immediately bring his hands to his head and unleash what could only be a solar flare, stunning the God Killer almost immediately as his eyes can't even keep up to blink. Being forced soon to cover his eyes as Lucif would become nothing but a blur. Wait, what is he? But even while peeking through, in his last few frames of seeing his opponent, what he would see would shock him. Damn it! I lost sight of him! But once the shining would finish and Vegito would creep his eyes open, it would seem Lucif was no more.
Don't worry, I'm still here, brother.
What? As unbelievably, Lucif, Vegito, Gaiba, whatever you want to call him, would return right behind Vegito. But now, in the final full Lucif takeover form the God Killer used just before he defeated the Grand Priest, who had also been taken over by Lucif's power. His body bulked and completely blackened, his horns extended, his hair now huge and a rosé pink, as both his forehead and chest would be adorned by the signature blood-red triangle of the devil himself, Lucif. Now, and only now, will a true battle between the past and present Vegito finally have a victor.
But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Lucif in the comments down below and let me know just where the hell this story goes now. Or just find out what happens right now on my Patreon, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked, and edited for you to enjoy with over 4,500 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.